All right, guys, welcome into another video. I'm Dr. Jim Cellini. I'm a board-certified practicing veterinary neurologist. I'm joined on this video with a very special guest, my wife, Dr. Elizabeth Roy, who works in mainly relief emergency veterinary work. Recently, you may have seen on social media that a cardiologist, a human medicine cardiologist in New York City, Dr. Evan Levine, made a video where he basically called veterinarians and lab work in veterinary medicine a scam, is the pretense of his whole video. So this is making the rounds, and we both looked at this the last couple hours and have been laughing. And
I really haven't watched the whole video or listened to the whole thing. I've just been hearing snippets of it while you've been listening to it.
Yeah, and you've been listening to me basically just impersonate the guy for the last couple hours. So in this video, we're going to basically react to his 3 TikTok videos where he calls veterinarians like scam artists and makes all these assumptions and completely wrong accusations, I guess, of vets. So let's get right into it.
Humans can ruin a perfect relationship with our pets, our cats, our dogs, pigs, horses. Only humans, like the vets. You know?
Now, right off the bat.
Yes, vets have definitely ruined the relationship between humans and pig.
Right, only humans. All right, so first of all, Dr. Evan is giving off pretty serious Dr. Evil vibes with this chair and the petting a cat and the whole deal. And the title of this video is called Lab Scam, How Vets Are Allowed to More Than Double the Cost of Your Pet's Labs.
You know, what I saw recently really troubled me. Vets do something that's really sneaky. Okay, they charge you $110 for an initial visit. Reasonable.
Most initial visits are a lot more than that these days.
Well, for a specialist, yeah.
For a specialist or emergency like you do. But
yeah.
I think general practice,
some of them are less than that.
Is it?
When it comes to bloods, there's a bit of a, I'm going to call it sort of a scam going on amongst vets.
All right, so we have a major accusation.
I can't wait to hear about this.
A common practice in veterinary medicine is in fact a scam, according to Dr. Evan Levine. Let's hear more.
They draw the blood and they send it to a lab. Okay? You want to go off, buddy? We're going to say goodbye. Say goodbye to this monster. Okay, Miss Nori. They send bloods off to a lab. Okay? They charge you to draw the blood, $20. They charge you to get rid of the needles. That's another $10. And then they charge you for the bloods. Now, here's one example, a true example that I found out and researched. So one of our cats needed a T4 ED, and we were charged $215 for a T4.
So let's pause it right there. First, can you tell the watchers and listeners at home, what is a T4 ED?
Thyroid by equilibrium dialysis.
Yeah. So T4 ED means thyroid by equilibrium dialysis, and it's a way to basically confirm low or high thyroid, right?
More or less.
Right. Okay.
Yep.
It's a little bit different than a regular T4. Quest Labs charges $28 for a human, by the way.
Okay, so this is the first little thing. He inserts, you'll see in these videos, he inserts these little jabs like, oh, the human, by the way, it's like 1 cent. He says stuff like that. So he mentioned there that Quest Lab, that's a human laboratory company. Quest Labs charges $28 for a T4, and he's comparing the $200 or so cost here of this one. If Quest Labs is charging $28 for a T4, all that means is that it costs them that much less to do the test in the first place. Okay. They're not just like charging $28 while it costs them $28. Like they're not just running lab work at cost, I would assume. Like I haven't seen their financial statements and whatnot. All that means is that the cost to them is just that much lower. Okay. That has to mean that. Just the way that, you know, running a lab in a business works.
He's also not saying who Quest charges $28 to.
A lot of this is like kind of the smoke and mirrors where he kind of doesn't make a comparison completely to human medicine, but we'll get into all that.
But this is $215. Luckily, I went to school with some folks, and I know some vets. Too bad they're not close to my home. And they confided in me. What they do is they send the blood to a lab.
Confided.
They don't do the blood.
Right, right.
Now, if a human did this, a doctor like me send you to a lab, you get a bill from the lab, right? Quest or LabCorp. But what the vets are apparently allowed to do is they send it to the lab sends the vet a bill for $85 to $100, and they mark it up just, doubling or more, over 100%, 115% to $215. Comprehensive blood, $295. The cost is about $150. Now, if a human did that to another human,
If a human,
I can't listen to him say human like
a
that.
human,
pay a huge fine, maybe go to jail. But the vets here are just increasing the cost of your care. You know, we went in for a visit, it started out at $110, and it ended up at $857. Now, at least I can afford it, but I'm a kid from Brooklyn, man, and this stuff really bothers me. I didn't grow up.
All right, so let's pause it right there. So basically, I think what he's trying to say is that in human medicine, when they order blood work on you, you then go to a lab. You sit in a chair and a phlebotomist draws blood from your arm, and a lab like Quest Diagnostics will send you a bill in the mail that you get, and whether, you know, insurance eats into that or whatever, the lab bills you separately. So there's a separate transaction between you and the lab. So I think he's saying in veterinary medicine, why is it that we can just send blood work to a lab as well, and then we just mark up the lab's charge back to us and make it that much more expensive? So let's walk through this if it were like in the human model. So say we see a patient, a dog, who comes in for blood work. If it was in human world, we would say, okay, dog, go to the lab and get your blood drawn. But that doesn't exist. Like, that literally is not a thing that exists anywhere. You can't just tell a person to take their pet, let's say, and go to a third-party lab and get your blood drawn. First of all, the act of drawing blood from an animal is part of like practicing veterinary medicine. And you would need technicians and a doctor on staff somewhere in the building to even do that. And then the other part is that oftentimes, half the time, you'd have to sedate an animal to get the blood work anyway. So then you're giving sedation drugs, controlled substances to even get the blood. This doesn't exist. Like, there is no feasible way to send somebody off to a third-party lab that's unrelated financially or business-wise to a vet practice. Like, it's all integrated.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't make sense to make that because you'd have to staff it with the same people that are staffed at a veterinary clinic or hospital.
Right. So that's why it's all done at the vet clinic.
Also, like, I don't have a lab bill in front of me, but I've seen them, and like, certainly insurance subsidizes some of the cost of lab work.
Right.
So if you get a bill and it's $50 for whatever lab you just had drawn, I mean, insurance paid the lab a couple $100.
Right. So I don't know why he's not like clarifying that. He's acting like human medicine with insurance at the end product of that is the same thing as veterinary medicine, which is totally out of pocket.
Right.
He's
and
trying to make them equal.
like, approximately doubling the cost of a lab panel is like very standard practice across all of veterinary medicine.
Yeah.
Like, that's how you make your, I mean,
Yeah. If the
we have
lab
to make some sort of money, but
Right.
that's like the standard amount that you
Right. If the
mark these up.
lab charges you, the vet practice, $100 for a blood test, you can't charge the pet owner $100.
Right. That would make no sense.
You would literally just go out of business in no time flat. Like, it's impossible. No business can do that. Okay. So I don't know what he's expecting here. Like, this is, you know, I think it's because a lot of doctors are just dealing with a different type of transactional system with Medicare and Medicaid and how they determine everything price-wise. I don't think they fully realize that the vet med is just completely out of pocket, and it's much more.
Yeah, it's like 100% unsubsidized.
Yeah, vet med. I mean, yes, there's pet insurance, but it's not like part of a
Different,
government
yeah.
subsidy and like Medicare and Medicaid are. But I get vet med is just purely open to the free market capitalistic sorts of dynamics like supply and demand and all that. And whether that's good or bad, that's a separate discussion, debatable, totally understand that. But he's comparing apples to oranges at the end of the day. So let's go on.
With riches, I grew up in a bit of poverty. And it really bothers me that the vets are allowed to do this. They send it out to a lab. It's a scam. The lab charges them $85 and they're billing us $215. And according to my friends who are vets, almost every vet does this.
Also, this isn't a secret. Yeah, we all do this.
Yeah, this isn't some major thing that
he's not like blowing the lid wide open on any sort of conspiracy here.
Right.
I also, like, I don't know what he's talking about with Stark's law. I would be interested to look that up.
So Stark, I actually did look this up.
Okay,
So
well,
Stark law is basically a law they passed in human medicine some number of years ago, to where if you're a doctor and you refer a patient to get blood work or some other test, let's call it blood work, keep it simple. You can't have a financial interest or connection to the lab, let's say, that you're sending the patient to.
Okay.
So like what we do in veterinary medicine, we send it to a lab like IDEXX or Antech,
Mm-hmm.
and then we mark up the cost of it, right?
Yeah.
But you can't do that in people medicine because it's considered a conflict of interest. You're basically, the idea is that you're sending somebody to get a medical procedure or test done, but if you have a financial interest to send them there, then that's unethical and it's considered illegal.
Okay.
If you get like kickbacks from it, right?
Yeah.
That Stark law does not apply to veterinary medicine. Again,
Obviously.
right, obviously. Again, you can debate it. That's a separate conversation to have. I'm not saying it universally should or shouldn't happen, but it just legally is not applicable to veterinary medicine at the moment.
How else would I get lab work on pets?
Well, that was kind of my first point is there is no other way to get lab work. There is no lab that we can just send animals to outside of our vet clinic to get this lab work done. Like,
right.
They don't exist. So like, what do you want us to do?
And I would also be curious because he's also talking about us, because this would be the same in human and vet med. Like if you as a human or you as an animal are having an emergency, then you'd go to a hospital where they'd run in-house labs on you. And I can guarantee you the price at a human emergency room of in-house labs, like what we run in an animal emergency room, is way higher because you're not going to like a third-party lab, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, he's acting like there's no markup in human medicine for anything. And again, I'm not an expert in human medicine economics or business or anything like that, but like there has to be a markup. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about too is whenever a lot of people make videos that complain about the cost of veterinary care, and I know it's a lot. I'm not saying that it's not a lot. Like I get that. But nobody ever says what the price should be. They always just say, like he's doing, a little post-it note, this is insane. This is a scam. This is robbery.
Well, and the thing is, if you want the price to be less, you have to subsidize it. And if you subsidize it, that's a government product, and then your taxes go up. So, but it's not like vets are rich. So, like, I don't
yeah,
like doctor. He makes way more money than a vet does. So, like, what?
Probably. I mean, I don't know what he makes. Like,
well, I don't know. He said he's a cardiologist, so a human cardiologist, I assume, makes more than a veterinarian.
Certainly, the average veterinarian. Right. Like, there may be some overlap, but that's like besides the point. It's just that, like, if you're saying it's too much, this costs too much, what should it be? You see a lot of these, every couple months a video like this circulates on social media that just like puts vets on blast and puts the cost of care as like this unattainable thing, which I know for a lot of people it is. I'm not saying it's not a problem. It's just that you never hear anybody say, instead of it costing this much, it should cost this much. And the reason they don't say that is because they have no idea the inner workings of the finances and the businesses.
Yeah, and the problem is, I mean, the profit margin in vet med is not large. So if you take the profit down on those lab tests, like if you don't mark those up,
right,
you have to mark something else up. So I mean, really, the thing that should be more money is like the exam fees and like those types of things. But I mean, people freak out with an exam fee of $100. So, like, God forbid we try to make that $200.
Right.
So,
if you were to lower
you gotta mark it up somewhere.
Yeah, if you were to lower these numbers and these testing costs, you would just have to raise the procedure fees that you do.
Right. And the exam fees and just your own like consult fees. And every time you get on the phone to talk to someone, you're going to have to charge them, $200.
Yeah.
All these things that doctors do, which is fine.
Yeah. Also, if you don't like the cost of it, this is, like I said before, this is a total free market sort of system, veterinary medicine. And for better or worse, one of the better parts of that would be that you can just go somewhere else and price shop. If you don't like the price of what a vet's charging you, you can go somewhere else. Vets are scarce. They're not everywhere, but like he's in New York City.
As I said, the doubling of a lab cost is very standard.
Yeah, that's not outrageous at all.
So anyway,
and he's also not talking about the cost of his services to compare to this. Like what would the cost for him to do, like read an EKG, do a cardiac stress test, these sorts of things that cardiologists do, an echo. I guess they do echoes, or I don't know if a tech does an echo or not. No. At least bring out the list and services, the goods and services that you do in your job, and talked about the markup there, but he's not doing that.
Where are the regulation? Where are the laws? Where's our congressman? How can we stop this? At least I can afford it. I have patients coming in to see me crying, not because of their own bills, but because they're in debt to the vet.
I don't believe that for a single second.
No person has ever gone to their human cardiologist and cried tears about their vet bills.
I mean, maybe it's happened before in human history. I don't know. No. But like that seems like some serious grandstanding right there.
We'll move on past that.
I mean, I can't verify that, obviously, but like you mean to tell me that in his practice, there's people coming in crying about their vet bills? You think if you're going to your cardiologist, that's what you're worried about at the moment and not your heart?
For bills they cannot afford. They can't can't go out to eat. They
Oh,
can't afford their own
They
medicine.
can't go out to eat.
They've destroyed the most beautiful relationship they've ever had with their loved one, their beautiful dog or cat or horse or pig or whatever it might be. Only a human can screw this up, but I think we need some regulations here. There needs to be some law to prevent this. You can't more than double the bill for doing nothing.
Doing nothing.
Who says we're doing nothing? Him? Okay.
What about all the time it takes to draw the blood
Yeah.
and the technical skills
I
and
mean,
then
you-
interpreting it?
You could basically apply this argument to literally anything that gets marked up.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean, literally everything.
Why did you mark it up? You just did it. You were doing nothing.
That's true. Yeah. Why mark anything up? Why should anyone make any money?
So like when you go to a restaurant, why did the restaurant mark up the cost of the steak that they made?
Yeah.
What do you mean? You did nothing.
Go grow your own cow.
Golly. I mean, it's so short-sighted. You'd think a physician with his accomplishments would be able to think through all this stuff. But it makes me think that he's looking for attention on social media. All right, so this is a follow-up video he made because he got a bunch of responses. I commented on his first video that guy acts like he works for free. So that was kind of like my version of like emotionally lashing out at this.
I really feel for the people that cannot afford to take care of their cats. It's incredible. How are you supposed to take in a cat from a shelter or so? And we adopted this big guy, Mr. Big, when he was 10 years of age, okay? Imagine the cost to everybody. You can't afford it. I'm lucky. I'm a doctor. I can afford this. But it's crazy, the cost. And I'm going to go over the cost for us to take care of our little guy.
This cat's
Bye-bye,
not interested in
Mr.
being part of
Big.
this.
Take care of our little guy. And here we go. So we brought the cat in just for a routine exam, and he's been eating a little bit too much. And I thought, well, maybe he's hyperthyroid. Here we go. So we started out with an exam, $109. I'm going to list this on top.
If this is in New York City, which is where he works, then a $109
Cheap
exam
exam.
is like half as much as what, I see people charge around where we are.
Then they decided to do an intestinal parasite screen, even though the cat's an indoor cat. I wasn't there. It was $71.30. A venipuncture to get the blood, $23. By the way, we get $5 from Medicare for humans.
Oh, by the way, Medicare is a government subsidized program.
Yeah, I mean, again, he's comparing a government subsidy and determining the cost to something that's in total free market dynamics. Like it's apples to oranges. I don't know why he can't get that through his head.
A medical waste disposal fee, we don't get that for humans. That's $15.14. That's to throw the syringe in the red in the red plastic container.
No, it's not just
That's not
again.
to throw the syringe in the red plastic container.
Again, that's like saying what he charges for an EKG is just to hold a piece of paper for 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Like that's not, again, he's making this look like it's all nickel and diming when there's like mechanics behind the scenes that I think he knows, but he's just intentionally being inflammatory.
A rabies vaccine, which is mandatory, they charge $67.46. I love how they get the 46 cents there.
Well, it's because the prices are dictated by software that just determines percentages based on the
There's
cost.
probably random taxes.
That just goes to show you that's an objective analysis that determines the price and not somebody behind a computer being
Also,
like, oh, it
as a
should be
medical
this.
doctor, you should be concerned about public health, and rabies vaccinations are important. Also, I guarantee you, anywhere you live in the United States of America, you can find a low-cost rabies clinic if you can't afford that. 67, whatever he said, a low or no cost rabies clinic almost anywhere in the U.S.
Yes.
And here we go with the bloods. The thyroid screen, while we came in, the T4 by ED is $215.01. Now remember, it cost them about $85 and they mark it up. A comprehensive blood profile, which cost them about $120, $130. With a UA, $295. The cat has no urine symptoms, by the way.
So now,
Oh, I bet a human's never had a urinalysis done
Right.
with no urine symptoms.
right. So again, this guy really should know better. Like this is like now you're playing like Monday morning quarterback on medical decisions that you weren't even there for.
To get the urine, here we go. A cystocentesis for $60.26. And I'm not going to show you the company or the vet. For a total of, for a routine visit,
This wasn't a routine visit. He said he brought the cat in for polyphagia, which is
Right.
a symptom that needs like a metabolic type of workup.
And he requested, and the vet agreed was appropriate, thyroid testing.
Right. They asked you. Yeah, that's the other thing. They don't just run these tests and just run your
Right.
credit card.
You're
Like,
welcome to decline any of these.
they go
Such
through
as the
these.
intestinal parasite screen.
If they don't, they should. Like, I'll openly say that. Like, any vet should sit down with you and go through why they're doing this and the reason for all these tests. And then you say, okay,
Yes
or not
no.
okay.
Right.
Yes or no.
And just so you guys know, acistocentesis is a way to collect urine from a cat using a needle inserted directly into the bladder. The reason we do that frequently in pets is because they're not a person that you can hand a cup and say, go pee, and then like wipe with a wipe and then pee again into this cup.
Right.
So that's pretty easy, but dogs and cats don't do that. It often takes 3 people to get a urine sample from an animal, an ultrasound machine, and special training. So that's what the charge is for that.
This is not just like playing with Legos. I think that's kind of what he's getting to too, is that this is all just like real rudimentary, easy stuff that like anybody could do.
Yeah, then why didn't he just do it on his own cat?
Exactly.
$56. Now, how the heck can people afford this? First of all, I got some letters from some techs. I don't blame the tech. I know you guys are underpaid. Some of the techs are upset. Hey, you deserve more money than $20 an hour for what you do. That's not what I'm saying. But people cannot afford.
Okay.
Where are they going to get that more money to pay their techs more?
Exactly. Like that. If the costs of a business go up, then the cost of services are going to go up to
He's saying
make
we're
up
charging
for
too little and underpaying people.
Yeah.
Like
does
where
he
does
not
he think the money's going to come from?
Cannot afford to take care of their pets. Okay? And when that happens, guess what? Who's going to adopt these cats? Who's going to adopt these dogs? These are not rich people adopting pets, saving their lives. These are everyday people, working people who cannot afford $856 for a stinking typical exam.
It's
Just
not
to clarify, the exam was $109.
right. The exam was $109, and
Everything else, and the rabies vaccine was $67, which could have been done low cost if he needed that.
You're right.
Everything else was optional
yeah,
testing.
yeah. And I'm pretty sure he's in New York City. Like,
Right.
what do you?
That's actually cheaper than I would expect for New York City.
It's absurd. Somebody is profiting too much in this unregulated industry. We love our pets. We do anything for them. But the cost is outrageous. And what's going to happen is more pets are going to be left in shelters because people can't afford to take care of them. That's what I'm saying. The next video, I'm going to talk about how to send a letter to your congressman and what to write.
Wait, about VetMed?
Yeah.
Oh, congressmen get involved.
All right, it's the last one.
I've received more than 50 times the amount of insults from folks unhappy with my call for regulation in the vet industry.
Now, where does he come up with that number from? He said 50 times the amount of insults. What is the base insult rate that he's referencing that is 50x?
That in the 70 or so more videos I posted about the troubles with our unaffordable healthcare industry. You know, it tells me that there are some very rotten apples in the vet world.
He's so inflammatory.
Just as there are in medicine and dentistry and many, many other businesses.
That's true.
For those who call me
Not false.
old man, stupid man.
I didn't say that.
Grandpa.
I didn't say that.
Rich grandpa. Just to let you know, I did look a bit younger a few months ago until I had a near-death experience and an ICU stay. The bill, $158,000.
Wow, that sounds like a lot. A lot more than a VetMed bill would be.
I have two things that instantly pop into my mind right there. One is, how can you have a near-death experience and your response to that is to come out and start calling veterinarians scam artists? Like, if I almost died, I wouldn't be just coming out and just lashing out a completely unrelated industry, first of all.
He also just said his hospital bill was $158,000.
Well, that was my second point. His bill was $158,000. Show me a veterinary bill that's 1/10 of that. That would be the upper echelon of what the costs get to. 1/10 of that. He seems to be making my point, which is like, it's marked up in human medicine too. So why isn't he comparing the two costs without the subsidy of Medicare and Medicaid put into it?
Copay was only $50. It also gave me the impetus for me.
Yeah, your copay's $50 because you've been paying $1,000 a month for 30 plus years to your health insurance. That's where that cost goes to.
Gave me the impetus for me to start speaking out about human and now animal health care. Others called me rich doctor. Just to let you know, I paid for all my tuition and even helped my parents pay their bills.
Well, what does that have to do with being richer?
I also bet what do you think his tuition
hold
was
on,
when he
hold
went to med school?
Hold on. The way to be rich is to pay off your debt as early as possible. So he's basically acknowledging that he is rich, which, by the way,
it's fine.
Good for him.
Great. Go
like
for
that's
you.
like, you deserve to. That's the thing too. I want to clarify. this is not an anti-physician household. Like my two brothers, one of which you probably know from YouTube, Michael and Tommy, they are physicians. And we talked about stuff like this all the time. I talked about this with them last night. I fully support physicians and human healthcare workers getting all the money and all the compensation they can, because they have the most important job I can think of, pretty much. Like when your life is on the line, they are trying to save you and your families and loved ones' lives. Like this is not anti-physician take at all. This is just basically a counterpoint, I guess, to him making all these accusations and not laying out all the facts.
They were not wealthy. And I've been called idiot, etc. Now, I suggest you review my stand on human healthcare, and much like pet healthcare, it is unaffordable. But at least it is regulated. With all my opinions about the troubled human healthcare system, though, it was really an insult. But here, from a few, and from these social media vets and their followers, oh my Lord, many terrible insults.
Well, what do you expect when you say that what you're doing, veterinarian, is a scam?
Well, the other thing
and you
is
broadcast this.
It sounds like I've never seen anything he's put out before. It sounds like he also mainly speaks out against the unaffordable cost of human healthcare. But like, I'm willing to bet he doesn't like blast physicians as the cause of that.
Right.
Like here, he's like, vet care is unaffordable and vets are bad people. And that's why, basically.
That's the message that he seems to be putting out there.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm getting. I mean, again, I haven't watched this.
I actually want to talk to him. I would love to do a Zoom call with this guy and be like, going through all this.
What that tells me is there's some bad folks out there intimidated about any change. Good people have friendly dialogue. Folks that want to hide stuff are generally rude and insult others.
So if you want to talk about hiding stuff, again, you're not divulging the cost of the healthcare that you provide to people out of pocket wise. Like you're not mentioning any of this. So like show the cost of the services that you do without a health insurance reimbursement or subsidy.
Again, if you make these costs less, they have to come from somewhere else.
It's not going to change the overall cost of doing stuff.
Right. Like stuff still costs the money.
Right, guys? For the docs, the vets who work for others.
That's us.
And for the techs, I do understand your pain, the labor you put in, the love most of you have for animals.
I feel validated.
And that many of you
I was scamming
indeed
people.
Underpaid. I get it. I agree with you. But I do see that there are too many out there also profiting.
Hold on. Are we underpaid or are we profiting from a scam too?
Yeah, I mean, is he talking about like the corporations? Like I don't
know. But he's saying you as in vets.
Yeah.
Twice.
I mean, I don't know enough about the corporate conglomerates that own veterinary medicine now to know what type of profits they're making on vet hospitals.
I mean, there's issues.
But yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
But all I know is that it's not going to the actual people who work in the hospitals, the vets and the technicians and the staff.
I think he wants this both ways. Like he wants to say that we're all scamming people. And then he's like, oh, actually the vets, I know a lot of you guys really
aren't paid that well.
You're not paid that well. Well, okay, do you want us to earn more? And then if we earn more, where's that money going to come
this
from?
Is what I'm saying. Where's the money going to come from?
Don't you? Here are some suggestions. One,
like
in human medicine, vets should not be able to bill any additional dollars for any test they do not do, labs or imaging. In human medicine, it's called the Stark Law. And this was enacted to prevent greedy docs from having an incentive to do many tests and profit, make lots of money from it.
Okay, so I don't necessarily disagree with that thought process, but I'm here to tell you that if that happens, that like the hospitals have to have a certain amount of profit margin to stay in business, and they're just going to increase the cost of other stuff to make up for it. So the final bill that you get as a pet owner is not going to change if that were to happen.
He's also talking about like in order to do this, we'd have to outsource labs and imaging to third parties like people do, like the Quest and the LabCorp, but then we just have to build facilities that are dedicated to drawing lab or doing images on dogs and cats, which
with a vet on staff and vet techs on staff.
Right, because with pets, you frequently have to sedate them for this type of stuff.
Right.
You don't, not always, but like it just doesn't actually seem like it would make sense.
Yeah, you'd have to build out entire, like how many of like a Quest diagnostic type of laboratory would you have to build out across the country to even do something like this?
It's now unlawful. It's been that way for years. 2, I believe it should be mandated that all vets display their fees online so folks can compare them and see.
Well, I can guarantee you that any vet will give you an exact cost breakdown of any test.
This is what we do. We give you a cost estimate.
I mean,
first.
I can't list every possible fee online, but like you can find an exam fee, and then everything else you can see itemized. Like these aren't.
So what we do, if I see a dog who has seizures and we want to do an MRI of its brain, I give the owner an estimate, a cost estimate of what an MRI would be. So they see a printout before they say yes or no to it. That's part of the process. So we do show them what things cost. Again, this is what I said initially. Doctors don't just put up the cost of all their services freely available online. Like, is that a thing doctors do? Human doctors do? Like, does he do that? Like,
and 3, this is a dream, hopefully, some form of real insurance, similar to your human insurance. Where vets are paid negotiated fees made with the insurer.
Although
I bet a lot of human doctors disagree with him.
Yeah, well, he also talks about how he hates human healthcare.
Right.
Well, I mean, again, I haven't watched all his videos about human healthcare, but like he's indicated that he thinks the human healthcare system is unaffordable. So now he wants to do that to the vet system. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I commented on this too. I was like, are you trying to say that if we go to the human model, this is going to be like a way better system?
And that will displace the current unaffordable system, the unaffordable insurance system. This is just my thoughts. I'm happy to discuss anything, just not answer or engage in dialogue with insults. I do hope that helps. Have a great day.
But you're still going to have tons of people who don't have. Even if
he doesn't want to engage with insults, so he opened up this whole can of worms by saying that this is a scam.
Yeah, but like even if vets develop an insurance model that's similar to human health insurance, like unless you require pet owners to get insurance, which will be literally impossible, it's still not going to solve a problem.
Yeah.
Because a bunch of like human health insurance is very expensive.
So I think that pretty much summarizes our thoughts. I'm sure you'll see a bunch of other vets commenting on this on social media, on TikTok and Instagram. Dr. Evan Levine, I just want to let you know, I'm happy to talk to you in real time and go over some of this stuff with you and maybe give you another perspective. Again, I'm not hating on the guy. I just think he just has a real short-sighted view of what we do, and he's not really presenting both sides of this argument.
And I think if someone could present a real, actual solution that could make this veterinary care more affordable for people, that would be fine and great, but I just don't think that anyone has proposed a valid solution. Yeah,
I didn't hear him say anything that really makes remote sense. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed this video today. Let me know in the comments below what you think about Dr. Levine's TikToks and his statements here. My thoughts as well. Anything you want to discuss, happy to. Hope you enjoyed my guest, Dr. Elizabeth Roy, my wife. See you in the next video. Have a good day.